Yeah, welcome to this lecture, Montessori Education 2. So far, last 2 weeks, we have looked at definition of Montessori, and we also look at the characteristics of Montessori and the Montessori philosophy. And today we are moving on to another topic, child psychology. Child psychology. Child psychology. Before I define child psychology, I want us to understand the meaning of psychology. The meaning of psychology. What is psychology? What is psychology? Psychology is the scientific study of human mind. Psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and its functions. Psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. Psychology is a scientific human mind and its functions, especially those affecting branches of psychology. Branches of psychology. 1, behavioral psychology. 2, cognitive psychology. 3, developmental or child psychology. Developmental or child psychology. Social psychology, biological psychology, and psychosocial psychology. But in the course of our study, we will be looking at only one branch of psychology. That is child psychology. In the course of our study, we'll be considering child psychology. So what is child psychology? What is child psychology? Child psychology is one of the branches of psychology which focuses on the mind and behavior of children. Child psychology is one of the branches of psychology which focuses on the mind and behavior of children from prenatal development through adolescence. From prenatal development through adolescence. I said child psychology is one of the branches of psychology which focuses on the mind and behavior of children from prenatal development through adolescence. Child psychology deals not only with how children grow. Child psychology does not only deal with how children grow physically, but with their mental, emotional, and social development as well. Child psychology deals not only with how children grow physically, but with their mental, emotional, and social development as well. Jane Piaget stated that children actually think differently from adults. Children actually think differently from adults, and children are simply as smaller versions of adults. So it is from children we actually move into adulthood. Childhood plays an important role in the course of the rest of life. Childhood plays an important role in the course of the rest of life. And that makes this topic very important within psychology, sociology, and even education. That is why it's very important. Experts on psychology focus on many influences that contribute to normal child development. As experts on psychology focus on many influences that contribute to normal child development and various factors that might lead to psychological problems during childhood. And that leads us to another subtopic, different contents of child psychology. Different contents of child psychology or factors that influences child's development. Different contents of child psychology or factors that influences child's psychological development. Some of the major contents that we need to consider in our analysis of child psychology include: 1, social contents. Social contents. 2, cultural contents. 2, cultural contents. 3, social economic contents. Social economic contents. 4, genetics factors or contents. And 5, environmental factors or contents. Let's look at them one after the other. Social contents. Social contents. Whenever you are talking about social, you are talking about interaction, relationship, interaction. Social talks about interaction, relationship. The kind of relationship a child have with his or her peers and adults around him have an effect on how that child thinks, learn, and develop. The kind of relationship a child have with his or her peers, even the adults around him, have an effect on how that child will think, on how that child will learn, and how that child will develop. Families, schools, peer groups all make up an important part of social contents. Family, schools, peer groups, all of them make up an important part of social contents. So if a child finds himself around peer groups that are skillful in communication, the child gains the skill to communicate with other people. So if the child finds himself in a group of peers that are good, that have skill in communication, the child automatically will learn to communicate effectively with other people. Besides that, if the child happens to find himself in a family that value education, if it's a family that value education, that the child find himself, the child also will love education and value it, and vice versa. That means vice versa means in other way around, if the child has a family that does not like, of course, the child that is very fine will not love school and will never value education. Anyone going to school is just waste. So social context really have in the way they learn, the way they think, the way that child develop. Number 2, social context. Number 2, cultural context. So, cultural context. When culture, what is culture? Culture simply means the way of life of a group of people. Culture simply the way of life people, the way they behave, greet, the food they eat, the mode of dressing, the language. These are culture. So culture translates norms, values, beliefs, and attitudes, especially to the young, the children. Culture, norms, values, beliefs, actions, attitude, behavior, etc. Especially young ones, the children. All these influence the life of a child, the lifespan of that child. Culture plays the role of the kind of that will be given. Culture a role of the kind of education that will be given, who to interact with, the kind to go, the kind to eat, the kind of dressing to put on, or dress to put on, they all have positive or negative influence in the life of a child, all through life. Does not have influence in the life of that child all through the lifespan.
Please unmute yourself. Mrs. Etanga, unmute yourself. Mrs. Etanga, Mrs. Etanga, unmute yourself. Please let's be patient. Let's patiently wait for a lecture. She will join us soon. Mrs. Tangozi, please unmute yourself. Please today, please be patient. Hello, please. I'm still here with you. Please be patient. Your lecturer will join you very soon. Mrs. Etangozi, please unmute yourself. Mrs. Etangozi, please unmute yourself.
Hello? Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, continue.
Sorry for this network, please. Then other factors, please, we have discussed the different contents of child psychology. We have discussed social context, cultural context, and socioeconomic context. Then the next context is genetic factors or contents. They are transmitted. All these genetic factors, they are transmitted to the child. So if the parents are of good character, or if the parents are intelligent, and etc., the child automatically will have good character, and the child will be very intelligent. 5 environmental factors. These are the 5 environmental factors. The environment a child finds himself influences him or her, either positively or negatively. If the child happens to find himself among people that smokes, of course, the child will join in smoking. And in other way around, if the child happens to find himself in the environment where people value education, automatically the child will value education. Let's move to the next content, next topic, child development and early learning, early childhood learning, child development and early childhood learning, child development and early childhood learning. Early childhood education is a branch of education that relates to the teaching of children formally and informally from birth to the age of 8 years. Early childhood education is a branch of education that relates to the teaching of children formally and informally from birth to the age of 8 years. It is described as an important period in a child's development. It is described as an important period in a child's development. It refers to the development of a child's personality. It refers to the development of a child's personality. Child's developmental approach to learning was developed by Jane Piaget. It was developed by Jane Piaget. Child developmental approach to learning focuses on learning through discovery. Child developmental approach to learning focuses on learning through discovery. J.J. Rossington recommended that teachers should explore children recommended that teachers should explore individual children's interests in order to make sure each child obtains information most essentially to his personal and individual development. Let's look at the 5 developmental domains of childhood. 5 developmental domains of childhood. 1, physical domain. Physical domain. This talks about the way in which a child develops biological and physical functions, including the eyesight, and the motor skills. When you talk about motor skills, you're talking about the movement of the hands or the legs. 2. Social domain. This includes the way in which a child interacts with other children. It includes the way in which the child interacts with other children. Children develop an understanding of their responsibility and rights of members of families and communities, as well as an ability to relate to and work with others. Emotional domain. This includes the way in which a child creates emotional connections and develops self-confidence. It is the way the child creates emotional connections and develops self-confidence. Emotional connection develop when children relate to other people and share feelings. 4. Language domain. This includes the way in which a child communicates. It is the way the child communicates, including how they present their feelings and emotions. Both to the other people and to themselves. So at 3 months, you see children employ different cries for different needs. They cry, that cry talks about language. When they are hungry, they will cry. At 6 months, you see them, they can recognize and imitate the basic sounds of spoken languages. In the first 3 years, children needs to be exposed to communication with others in order to pick up language. So once they are 3 months, 3 years, you have to expose them to communication to pick with others. Then 5 is cognitive skills. This talks about, or it includes the way in which a child organizes information. Cognitive skills includes problem solving, creativity, imagination, and memory. All this talk about cognitive. When I'm talking about cognitive, talking about the ability of a child to begin to make use of his brains, thinking faculties. So because of our time, this is where we'll be rounding up. Please submit assignment to setengoscecilia@gmail.com. setengoscecilia@gmail.com. Number 1, what is child development? What is child development? And state and explain 5 different contents of child psychology. What is 1, what is child psychology? And 2, state and explain 5 different contents of child psychology. Thank you and God bless you.